Senior Report thanks Edmund Besch of Bristol Burgess Insurance Agency, 65 East Main Street, Westfield, for his generous grant to provide news to seniors. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Funding for Senior Report is provided in part by a grant from Andrew Goodell, Assemblyman for the 150th District of the New York State Assembly. Dave Cass and Rick Newell provide funding on behalf of the Lakeview Hotel and Restaurant at the Docks, located on Water Street near the lake in Mayville. Senior Report with Reed Powers thanks Westfield's Schultz Chevy for a generous grant to inform seniors of important news. Over 50 years of service to Westfield by Chevrolet, Schultz Chevy across from the school. The physicians of Jamestown Primary Care are happy to sponsor the Senior Report. From the Access Channel 5 television studio in Mayville, it's Senior Report with Reed Powers. Senior Report is broadcast live throughout northern Chautauqua County on Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. each week. Call in and share a thought, make a comment, ask a question, or simply wish someone a happy birthday on Chautauqua County's only live call-in senior program. Since 1995, Reed has been bringing viewers hundreds of interesting guests, informing the community on a variety of subjects. Here's the host of the show, Reed Powers.
And good morning. What a wonderful day in Chautauqua County, although I just got back from the tropics. As most of you know, I took a trip down to Puerto Rico and St. Thomas and Grand Turk and some of those little places in the Caribbean. And what a refreshing trip that is in the middle of the winter. It's supposed to be the first day of spring yesterday, but I'm not so sure about that. 20-degree temperatures, snow all over the place. What's going on here? Hey, it's April, guys, almost. All right, so at any rate, I had a great trip, and I was on Carnival, but not the two Carnivals that were having a little problem, although they have so many ships. The odds are they're going to have a problem sometime along the way, but nobody had a real hassle like the previous one, which floated around for days. My trip on the Carnival Miracle was just terrific. And what a sweet trip it was. I love it. If you want to know a little more about how to get a cheap price on a cruise ship, just call me. I'll give you the inside dope. There are a lot of ways you can beat the price. I'm currently looking at one for about $350 for 8 days floating around in the Caribbean and the tropical islands. How can you beat it? Wonderful food, gourmet food, all day, all night if you want it. I can't beat it. Nice quarters, visit to other countries. Wonderful people, total service, you can't beat it. I'm telling you. Even chocolate-covered cherries and a bottle of champagne. Now that is living, guys. Lots of things happening around here. Of course, I noticed the Congress is getting cranked up now on their gun control. They need more gun controls. We've got 35,000 or something gun control laws already, which basically strip you of most rights that are constitutionally guaranteed. Now they threw the Constitution out here in New York State. I see they're getting sued by gun owners now. They, in the middle of the night, passed a law that was so unconstitutional and restrictive for guns that it's hard to believe they would have the nerve to do this. This was under Cuomo, And he shot it through. Incidentally, there's no committee review, which is guaranteed for all laws. And incidentally, there was no public input, which is guaranteed by all laws. Whipped it through. They only have 7 shots in a magazine, which means half the guns in the state, which were bought in good faith some half a century ago, some yesterday, are now illegal. And you could be arrested and put in jail for having them. Incredible. What's going on here in the state of New York? Don't they believe in the Constitution at all? Not only the federal Constitution, which permits you to have a gun, but without any laws restricting it theoretically, but the state laws, which our Constitution requires committee and public input. Forget all that. Ridiculous. Incidentally, the vice president, who's pushing hard for federal gun controls, more of them, has already admitted that they won't make any difference. You get a nutcake, he's going to get hold of a gun probably one way or another, and all you're doing is making it harder and harder for the law-abiding, caring citizen to get a gun. And they use the AK-47s to, or the AR-47s to kill pigs. You're allowed to have a gun if you're allowed to have one anymore. And we're all afraid that they're going to decide that any gun that's semi-automatic, you have to pull the trigger to go off, but they're going to outlaw all them, which means that even pistols will be illegal. I can't believe what these crazy nuts are doing. All right, and I'm incidentally very sympathetic and sad about the kids that were killed and about other people who are killed with guns, but they're going to get killed with something or the other when you got a nutcake running loose. Trick is to identify nutcakes and give them treatment. They've cut most of the money for treatment for crazy people. Well, that's the problem now. They remain crazy. And one thing they wind up doing in many cases is killing people, including themselves, I might add. Obama's he's in Israel. I guess he's just getting back now, traveling around there, telling them everything's okay, we're going to take care of you. In the meantime, Iran is rumbling. They're trying to develop a nuclear weapon, and Iraq is still in a case of total rebellion and craziness, bombings and everything. This is a country we went in and lost thousands and tens of thousands of our kids wounded and billions of dollars to fix it up and make it a wonderful democracy like we have. Yeah, give me a break. It didn't work. Chautauqua County, spring is here. Enough said. Lisa Goodell, our assemblyman's wife, runs the Blind Association. They had a blind dinner. You know, they blindfold everybody and they eat in the dark without sight. So you can see what it's like to be blind when you're eating dinner. It's quite an experience, everybody tells me. The food tastes different, too. Oh, and I got a happy birthday here. Happy birthday, Chris Bird. Chris Bird is a general engineer here doing a wonderful job. He's an incredible man on the television, knows exactly what he's doing, and so is his father, who's a super champion. Runs the cameras, does general stuff around here, takes care of all kinds of things. Randy Bird, you're just as good as the rest of them. Better than most and better than me. Happy birthday, Chris Bird, and happy Randy Bird. All right, I have enough said here. I got a guest coming on you're not going to believe. This guy gives up his Saturday mornings regularly to come in and report on events in the Chautauqua County from a legalistic viewpoint. He does a lot of senior legal work, and his name is Jim Subjack. Oh, you recognize him. He was the district attorney in Chautauqua County for years and years and years. He'll be here with us in a minute. In the meantime, I have a public service announcement for you, and then we will have a little bit of news from the senior crowd coming up. And they're not ready for that, because I usually do the senior crowd news first. Let me do that. We have a lot of senior groups here in Chautauqua County, and one of them is the Great Belt Seniors, and they have a regular crowd that comes out, a huge number of people. They're going on a real adventure coming up. You got to get in on it March 29th, but you know, they always have room for other seniors. You don't have to belong. And even kids, if you want, if they're not full, you want to check at 672-5274. It's going to be quite a while. The trip it goes to Montreal and Quebec. They have a trip there, and you can go on the waiting list for that one coming up. Exercise classes, they have all kinds of things. They have yoga class, dance class, knitting class, potlucks, luncheons. The next one will be April 24th. Most senior groups are potluck. You bring along a dish to pass, whatever it might be, and bring your silver and it's just fantastic. You have a great dinner and a wonderful time. Sinclairville crowd, the 76ers, they're particularly interesting in that they do a certain trip. They deliver meals. Yeah, they deliver meals to people who are inbound, housebound, can't get away. So they have Meals on Wheels, and they do it themselves. President over there is Richard Smith. If you want to get involved, call Richard, and you can get us set up. I want to say they're going to help with the benefit spaghetti dinner to be held on Sunday, April the 14th. If you want to get involved, come around. Wonderful spaghetti dinner, very inexpensive. Prizes to be raffled. It begins at noon at the Sinclairville Fire Hall, which donates their facilities to the Meals on Wheels, I might add. Hello, Sinclairville. What a bunch you are. What wonderful people. Fire departments are just totally invaluable in our county. I don't know what we do without them. One more information, 962-3455, and they'll give you all you need. Sheridan Happy Seniors, they have a song. I got to have them come over here and sing it. Ellen Suttle is the one who runs that operation, and what a bunch they have. They have 30, 40 people out every time. And hello, Jim Subjack. Just appeared. Here he is. We're all set. He knows better than to come in early. He's been here, he says. Okay. Fred Sikorsky says the next trip will be April 18th over there in that crowd. They're going to America's Store, Aminal Farm in Verisburg, and a stop at Vidler's. Lunch will be served at the farm. Nothing. The cost is $69 for a whole long trip. Get tuned in if you want it. April 12th meeting. Somebody interested in going did not sign up. You can call Angie Logan, 965-4150, and I'm telling you right now, Sheridan Happy Seniors are very happy, and they have a great trip. Chicken barbecue, they're having on May 27th at the Sheridan Fire Hall, the Memorial Day weekend, you know. And the food pantry wants, as most food pantries, the food pantries in our county are running bare. Their cupboards are bare. There's been such need. So donate if you have some non-perishable food items. Give them to your local food pantry. There's one in Westfield, I know. Next meeting, April 12th, 1 p.m. Drop around. Silver Creek Seniors. They have a regular meeting crowd. They have their own room, their own house over in Route 5 and 20. And large numbers show out. They had a great St. Patty's Day dinner, as did everybody. But they had a ham. I had corned beef. St. Patty's Day, yeah. Day after I got back from the trip, but we had corned beef galore. Ed Newman is the one who runs the Silver Creek Seniors, I might add, and he does a great job. He gave a shamrock decoration to Connie, who's been the president there and does huge works all the time. Mayville Seniors, last but not least. Huge numbers show up at the Mayville VFW for fun and lunch, and they always have a lunch, bring your own. They often provide the lunch there. The seniors filled their plates with wonderful food. This time, Mary Carlson called the numbers, table numbers. President Joyce Ayers, Mayville, opened the short business meeting. And I just want to say happy birthday to a couple of people. Donna Cummings, Rosella Stansbury, Charles Tanner, Pat Smith, Charles Krause, Judy Smith, Marshall Lindberg, Bill Fay, Bill Tormstrom, Barbara Thompson, Juanita Holthouse, Arlene Kurtz, and Gladys Fidel, among others. Happy, happy birthday. Going to the Seneca Casino coming up, ready to go. Thank you, Gene Kelsey. Does the job there. Hello, Darlene Barney, new member. Guess who did a show over there? Our own John Hamels and his pal, Bill. They have a great group. They do Irish songs. All right, enough said. Now they're ready, they tell me, for the fantastic public relations message we have for you. This is for you.
She passed away about 6 months ago. It was really hard to learn that there was no cure. So we sought hospice care. The hospice people, they really helped. They made her feel comfortable. And they helped me and the girls, especially the girls. They're helping us get through this loss. Now, hospice people, they're good people. They're really good people.
Okay, there we go, talking to Jim Subjack, but we have another guy here. We have John Hamill's Doc. He's on.
Good morning, Reed, and good morning, Jim. Good morning to all our viewers. A couple things I want to mention real quick, Reed. We've got this primed and ready to go. I know Jeff has it ready. The Safety Education Village next Saturday morning from, I believe it's 10 to 1:30. They are going to have their Easter Carnival. And the reason why I bring this up, because this is something that we support big time here at the studio, and Terry Kinberg's been on the show, but it's a minimal amount of money to get in. They've got all kinds of fun things to do there. The Masons, which I'm part of, is going to be doing the Child ID program, and that's coming up this Saturday, not today, but on March 30th. So I just bring that to your attention, grandparents, aunts, uncles, parents, and so on. So that's a good thing. Thank you, Jeff. Reed, last time I was here for you, I was talking a little bit about how seniors can save some money through defensive driving courses, and I want to give you folks an update because I mentioned it. I called my insurance company yesterday and said I got two certificates, one for my wife and one for myself, and now what do I do? And she asked me some information, and I scanned over the copies. And have any idea what we saved in 1 year?
Well, you supposedly saved 10%.
Okay.
For one. I don't know if they give you credit for two in the same thing, but...
Well, I'm not exactly sure how it all works out, but $377, she said, my savings.
Wow. And that's
I think that's significant.
That's just for a couple hours sitting around having cookies, milk and cookies.
Sitting around in your pajamas on the internet, sitting there doing it at your own pace. They give you a month to do it through AAA and other different organizations, but $377, I'll take that for 30, or we invested 35 and 35, we invested $70, and we got almost 5 times our money back.
And you get a lot of points too, in case you have some, but
that helps.
Last time I got some, I said, well, I haven't got any points on my record now, but can I save them in case?
No, you can't. No. But the point is that's good for 3 years, so there's 1,000 plus in change. So yeah. Just something to think about, folks. Okay, today I want to talk about something that just kind of popped up on my computer this morning, and I guess I've been thinking about doing this anyways. But how many times have you seen this? And I know Jim will talk about this, I'm sure, somewhere along the line and read. I get an email that says something like this: I'm in England and I was robbed at gunpoint. I'm okay, don't worry, but I've lost my wallet and passport. I'm staying at the YMCA. Could you please send me some money through a wire? And I really appreciate it, and it's someone you know. I bet I've gotten 4 of those over the years. It's someone that you know personally. It's a scam. Dearest John, I get one of these, I get a lot of Dear Johns. It has been brought to the attention of the law offices of Dunnigan and Harrison of South Africa that you've been named as a recipient in the settlement of a government oversight of $25 million in USA funds. Right. I get those like daily. It's a scam. All right, and then the third one, which is probably a little bit more tricky because people think it's real. Let's make it Dear AOL Internet customer. We'll use that company. Or I'm at Fairpoint. They would use Fairpoint. We're updating our files. Please provide your name, your account number, your password, your Social Security number. Social Security number and password should be a red alarm. It should be a red flag. Anytime they will ask you for personal information, it's a scam. The reason why I bring this up because I work with my dad once a week up at his house up in Buffalo, and we sit and we go through his emails and things like that. So he goes, "What is that?" And I go, "Throw it away, Dad. It's nothing to be concerned." But the way it's written, it kind of pulls you in for a minute. What I encourage you to do, you see these things, throw them away, or if you have any questions, talk to somebody, talk to law agency or your lawyer or whatever, but be very, very careful. Never, ever share personal information to someone you don't know or to an organization that's asking for money. It's not going to happen. If it's too good to be true, as they say, it's too good to be true. Back to you, Reed.
Thank you. I got recently the routine where I've been robbed, all my stuff is gone. Right. In Italy, from a friend of mine, it was misspelled, and it was a terrible little message. He'd be far more meticulous than that. But I did call his wife and tell her that I had sent him immediately $1,500, which knocked her over.
He's sitting right next to me.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we got a guy here who's an old-timer here. He's been with us for, I don't know, 20 years or 15, 19 years, something like that. Jim Subjack, and he's been here since he's DA. He started out as DA when I started out here. And he's very informed. He's a lawyer over in Fredonia, and his wife is still, I believe, on the board
Village
over
board,
there.
correct.
And he's well connected in the area. He's been here, where were you born and raised?
Dunkirk.
Dunkirk, New York.
I lived in Jamestown for 25 years. Of course, I was away for 7 years at school. But when I got back from school, I lived in Dunkirk for a short period of time. I was in city government there. Then Paul King, who was the district attorney at the time, appointed me as an assistant district attorney, and the rest is kind of history. My ADA tour took me to the south end of the county, so I moved to Jamestown in 1978, moved back to Fredonia, which is where I live now, in 2004.
And then
I'm
you
still
became
there.
the full DA.
I was the full DA from 1993 to 2005.
Which is a long time.
Yeah, it was,
enough to get
fun.
you tired of it.
There were tiring aspects of it. There's tiring aspects of everything.
Yeah.
Now, if I can piggyback on a little bit what John said, one of the other things I haven't seen in a while, but they actually look legitimate as well,
What's
is
that?
when you get the message from the bank and it's got the bank logo on it. I mean, you actually see the bank logo and it's, boy, this looks legitimate. They give you an 800 number to call. When I was DA, I had some of these, so I called the 800 number, and if you can get through, there's actually somebody on the other line that call themselves loss prevention. Well, I knew it wasn't for me because it was Sunbank, which is mostly down south. I've heard of Sunbank, I know that they exist, but I've never banked with Sunbank. So I knew that when they were sending me that email, they were phishing, but I went to check. I reported it to the Attorney General's office. What they did with it, I don't know. But those things happen all the time. John is right. You never give your Social Security number to somebody that contacts you. If you contact somebody and you're asking for a credit card, you're asking for a loan, you're asking for something financial, you better expect they're going to ask for your Social Security number. But keep in mind, you're the one that initiated that contact. You know who you're talking to, I hope. I mean, it'd be a legitimate agency, a legitimate bank, a legitimate mortgage.
And the worst part is these outfits threaten you. Say, we're going to have to drop your account if you don't immediately provide us this
They're
information.
predators. Yeah, I've gotten this. I've gotten the emails from friends that say I've been robbed. I've lost all my money. I've been beaten. I'm in jail. I mean, that happens, by the way, a lot too. The emails to the grandparents from the grandkids.
Yeah.
The grandkids that are supposedly at school, and they are. I mean, they know they're at school, and I don't know how they know this, but they say they're at school and they've been arrested falsely, but they have to post bail. What grandparent isn't going to help out a grandchild? So you send the money to bail them out. Of course, they've never been in jail. They're not in jail. They don't even know what grandma's doing. And by the time they figure it out, grandma's lost all the money.
Yeah, and grandma's a real dummy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so obvious.
That happens. That happens. That's unfortunate, but it happens. So
Yeah.
I agree with John. You really need to be careful.
Yeah, be careful.
If you're not going to be careful with your personal information and your money, you've been warned, and I'm not to say that you deserve what you get. That's not ever the case in something like this. But you really need to be diligent. You've worked very hard for your money. You want to spend your money on what you want to spend it on. You don't want other people stealing it from you and spending on what they want to spend it on.
Yes.
So just be careful. Everyone needs to be careful. And again, I repeat it, and I've said it many times, just like John said, just like you said a few minutes ago, if it sounds too good to be true, it is.
Identity theft. It's
it's terrible.
one of the biggest crimes in this country right now, and if they get your identity, all they need is a couple of items, like your Social Security number or your passwords, and they can raid your bank. I mean, they can take everything out of your savings before you know it hit you.
What? I actually got raided one time. The only one time in my whole life I've used PayPal. I won't use it. Everyone says it's safe. Everyone says it's secure. The one time I used PayPal to buy a gift for my daughter, the next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call. It was a Chase card. I'm getting a phone call from Chase saying, how are you spending money in Fredonia, New York today, and you're also buying food out in someplace in California, Bakersfield, California? And I said, obviously I'm not. So somebody off of my PayPal account somehow got into it, got my information, got my card. I canceled the card. It didn't cost me anything because they caught it right away, and I'm glad the card was diligent and said, you can't be doing this. But nonetheless, it's easy for somebody that knows what they're doing to do. The only thing I use computers for essentially is to play free cell. So I'm not going to be invading anybody's accounts. But people are out there, they're very sophisticated, they know what they're doing, they know how to do it, and you just have to keep a perfect, strict vigilance over your own affairs.
Absolutely, and I had the same thing happen, Jim, with me and eBay. Somebody started buying stuff with my account, but they blocked it immediately. Now that's the other side of the picture. The companies who are involved with these things are getting more and more sophisticated in their knowledge too.
They are.
Okay, they did suggest I change my password though, and I did. Talking with Jim Subjack, there are so many scams going on out in the computer. You have to erase 3 or 4 before you get to your real mail.
You get email, you have 50 entries, and only 10 of them are legitimate. And that doesn't count the spam filter that took out another 100.
Right. And do not give out any personal information like social security numbers and passwords. Whatever you do, don't give them out unless you call someone and you're actually involved with them. Then it might be legitimate. But if they ask you for them, tell them to go sit in their hat. And you know what I mean. All right, lots of scams flying around. I did want to mention the fact that Jim is a elder care attorney. He does an awful lot of elderly care. And there are a lot of things we add. Now, how about the trust thing and all that, Joe? How's that going? Estate management and so forth.
Well, one of the things that I'm starting to notice a little bit more of, people are becoming more aware of, for example, the Medicaid problem that may take their assets. One of the things that's very important, and if you're considering doing something with your estate or some type of estate planning, that's the key word. Estate isn't the key word here, it's the planning is the key word. And one of the things that people do and ask me frequently, and I don't try to discourage it, but I don't encourage it as well, it's the transfer of the house, for example, to the kids. Well, I'm not saying that's a bad idea, and in many cases it can be a good idea, but it's got to be carefully planned and thought before you do it. Why do I say that? When you give your house to your children, you maintain a life estate, which means you can live there as long as you want. Well, circumstances oftentimes change. The concept when you transfer the property was you were going to live there the rest of your life. At some point you might need assisted care. At some point you might need Medicaid to help you pay for that assisted care, and you don't want Medicaid to take the asset that you and or your spouse worked for so long to get and to maintain. That's a very laudable goal, but the problem is when you transfer it, you've also lost all control over it. And what do I mean by that? Well, I've had circumstances where people have come to me and said, I moved out, I've moved now to pick the nursing home, it doesn't matter. And I'm not talking about nursing home that is necessarily assisted, it's a senior residence. And my child won't give me the money. They've sold the house, I've waived my interest in the life estate, and they sold the house and they won't give me the money. What can I do about it? The answer to that is really not very much unless there's some type of fraud when you were induced to create the life estate and transfer the property. Because the property is already that child's or children's, they own it at that point. It is their asset to transfer once the life estate has been extinguished. So if they choose not to give you the money, they may be heels or cads, but they're within their legal rights to do so. So instead of the government taking some of your money, your children have taken all of your money. So you need to think about that. You need to think, is that going to be a situation where I'm prepared to lose all control over my property? The same thing when you do a will, for example. Wills aren't just for the elderly. People with young children should have a will. Why? Because they need to name a guardian for their children in case something happens to them and their spouse or significant other. And does it happen often? No, it doesn't happen often. But the way I try to explain it to people is if everything worked as it should, If things worked perfectly, if life went rosy on rose petals, we wouldn't need lawyers. I'd be doing something else, because lawyers are there to undo the messes that people create or to prevent people from creating messes themselves. So think about it. Just give it some thought. Make sure that you have considered all of the aspects. Make sure when you do it, you are doing it in a manner that comports with what your desires really are and that won't take away your freedom, your independence, or an asset when you haven't considered that that might be a possibility.
So think carefully.
Think carefully. It's no different than any other aspect of your life, but this is a very important part of your life because you're essentially dealing with your future. Now, some of that future deals with after you're gone and the future, not your future, but there's still a lot of things that deal with you in the present tense and future tense, correct?
Look, get the right kid.
That's right.
The right kid.
That's right.
There's a look-back period. What is
5
that now?
years.
5 years. In other words, if you do this, 4.5 years later, you need to go on Medicaid. They'll take all the money anyway.
Yeah, one of the things I think you're seeing is because the look-back periods have increased. They 39 months, 5 years, and I think they're going to increase again. And the purpose I see them increasing it is, well, number one, so they can recoup more money. But number two, when you think about the concept of medical science, think about it. If you go back to the Civil War, I'm a big Civil War buff. If you got shot in the stomach back in the Civil War, even if you survived the bullet wound, peritonitis is going to kill you in 3 or 4 days. They just didn't
Infections.
have. That's right.
Killed 10 times.
That's right. And they didn't have the medical knowledge or technology to do what was necessary to bind the wound, to make sure it didn't happen. So things have changed significantly in medical science now. For example, one of the biggest cases, publicity-wise, I ever handled when I was DA was the new Sean Williams AIDS predator case. Back then, AIDS was a fatal disease. You transferred the HIV virus to somebody, you've caused that person a shortened lifespan, significantly so, they were going to die. Now it isn't the case so much. With all the medical improvements in sciences that have now taken, as far as AIDS is concerned, steps towards lengthening lives. Look at Magic Johnson, the basketball player. How long ago was it? 20 years ago or more that he announced that he was HIV positive? He's as healthy as a horse right now.
The cocktail.
That's right. So what you have, and the same thing with Alzheimer's. I really hope that they find a cure for Alzheimer's, but there are drugs that can prolong your productive life even though you have Alzheimer's. Well, I think the government at some point, because when have you known the government not to take advantage of people, you're going to see the government at some point say, hey, look, 5 years really isn't enough time because you can be diagnosed with Alzheimer's 10 years in advance, and you're going to wind up with an assisted living facility, so you're going to transfer the property 10 years in advance to avoid Medicaid. We're going to change the look-back procedure or time frame for that particular disease to 10 years, for example. Now, don't anyone go back and say, did you hear that they've changed it to 10 years for Alzheimer's?
They may, though.
They may. That's my point.
May.
They may change it. I'm not saying that they have. I'm not saying they will, but knowing government, as you all should,
they will.
They probably will at some point. And
Jim Subjack.
Yeah.
Got a call.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, caller, you're on.
Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
This show is great. My mother just went into an assisted living home. Really concerned about her house. She's had us living with her for probably 9 months now. My brother thinks she can just sign it over to us. We make the payments and stuff, which I don't believe. Is there anything we can do to keep the house? Because she will be getting Medicaid.
Within the next 5 years?
Well, she's going to be getting it right away. That's the thing. We're just wondering what to do with the house because
at this point it really doesn't matter much. What's going to happen is the government is going to look back. So if you were to sell the house, I'm going to make numbers up now, but if you were to sell the house for $50,000, make $50,000 net, that's all money that now there's provisions for you to keep certain amounts of money, but if she's single, I think she's over that, but she'll be able to keep some anyway, but they're entitled to some of that. And one way or another, they're going to get it. Now, the real difficult part about it is Medicaid has become very diligent now, and I mean very diligent. And, people say that it's nasty what they do and how the ropes they make you jump through. And I would concur that some of the hoops they make you go through are way too small and way too picky. But for the most part, what they're trying to do is save taxpayer dollars, which is a good thing. But what's going to happen is they're going to want to recoup the monies they spend. There's no way, if she's imminent in her obtaining of Medicaid, be able to sell the house, because they're going to attach the proceeds. And what they can do, by the way, is if you take the proceeds and distribute them amongst yourselves, Medicaid is going to say, that's fine, we're not going to make her eligible for Medicaid because you can't show us where those funds went. So they can actually decline Medicaid eligibility based upon what you have done with assets. And if you've hidden them, I'm telling you right now, 99 out of 100 times, and perhaps 100 times out of 100 times, they're going to decline her eligibility for a significant period of time.
Okay, so what happened was about 2000, my dad passed away. She had my brother buy the house. She didn't owe a lot on it, but he had to pay off my dad's bills. Well, 10 or 11 years down the line, he just about lost the house, so he somehow wheeled and dealed, and they signed the house back over to her.
Yeah, you're dead in the water.
So, yeah, it's only been like, she's only had it back for about a year.
Yeah. They're going to put a lien on the house. The only way, Jim, that I understand that you could hold on the house is if you can prove that you've provided care for that person for up to a certain time. I think it's 3 years.
Yeah, and
then you are entitled to it.
Right, and then you might be able to do something else here. When we talk about the Medicaid look-back procedure, it's a presumption that the property was transferred to avoid having Medicaid take the asset. In this particular case, depending on the paper trail that you've created for all of these transactions, you might actually be able to show Medicaid, and I'm not telling you you will, but you might be able to show Medicaid this was not in any way intended to defraud Medicaid or to avoid Medicaid. This was done as sound financial planning for an entirely unrelated reason. And when all of these transactions took place, Medicaid wasn't even a whisper in anyone's ear, not a thought in anyone's remotest corner of their mind. It was an entirely different situation. I would attack it from that angle and hope you succeeded. Again, I'm not going to say that you will. My guess would be at the local level you're not going to succeed, because you've probably heard the stories about people that apply for Social Security disability. They always get denied. That, unfortunately, is pretty much the case. Your first application is you get denied. Then with the medical proof and after you have a hearing, oftentimes, in fact, very oftentimes, you wind up being eligible for Social Security disability. You get retroactive pay, but that doesn't help the 3 or 4 years that you've been waiting to receive those funds. It can be the same thing with Medicaid. You'll likely get denied at the local level, even if you have a legitimate instance that you can point to them. However, there's an appellate process available to you. Use it and explain the situation, but a paper trail is very critical. I'd go back to 2000 when your brother took over, or 2001 whenever your brother took over. I'd go back to the financial aspects of it. I'd show where it became underwater as a result of his maybe bad financial decisions or unfortunate circumstances. I don't know, and it really doesn't matter, but show that his financial circumstances led to the transfer back. And if there's a good paper trail, you have an argument. If there's no paper trail, it's not so strong.
There you go. Caller, does that help?
I think you hung up maybe.
With paying off the bills, the house is definitely costing more now than it's actually worth. And I'm just wondering, would you have to pay the difference if the house is sold, or you got to pay it off, or?
What is it, a mortgage?
Yeah, it's a mortgage.
And the mortgage is, the house is underwater. That's the term, meaning that the mortgage is, let's say on your $50,000 house, the mortgage is $60,000. The mortgage company can take a judgment against your mother for the additional $10,000. Obviously, Medicaid isn't going to be interested in that because there would be a foreclosure against your mother with a judgment for $10,000. There are other ways they can enforce a judgment, so if she has other assets, they might be able to go after them as well. What she might want to do, presuming she's mentally competent, and if not, hopefully somebody's got a power of attorney for her, is to go to the bank and give them a deed in lieu of foreclosure. And what that means is you no longer own the property, and that's not something that Medicaid is really going to go after anyway under the circumstances. But if you give them a deed in lieu of foreclosure, the $50,000 house satisfies the $60,000 debt. There's no judgment against your mother. There's no attack of other assets, and she walks away with depending on what she's done as far as payments are concerned, not necessarily a great credit rating, but not as bad as it would be if she lost the house in foreclosure and in addition had a huge judgment against her. So that would be something I would try to do as well.
Okay, because see, I'm not even sure how an 83-year-old lady was able to get a house back with what she had, but somehow my brother, his brother-in-law was a banker. They dealt with a attorney, and they were able to sign it over to her.
And the combination of factors has basically turned the house probably over to the government. Thank you, caller, very much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's kind of a sad thing.
It
is.
is.
You do lose your house usually to go on Medicaid.
Yeah, and I think this house, there's no way that house is going to be saved. The question now is to whom is it going to go? And I think of the two, I'd rather have Medicaid take my house than have the bank take it back.
Usually Medicaid just takes a lien on it.
They do.
You're dead.
Right. That's exactly what they do. But for the full value, so you can't sell it without giving them the money. That's correct.
Right. Jim Subjack, lawyer, does a lot of eldercare lawyer, past district attorney, lives here happily in Stockton County. Probably has a dog.
Well, actually, this year, you know, I always go on a cruise too. We have a little rat terrier. She'll be 10 years old next Friday. And she's got some type of immune disease. Her bone marrow quit producing white blood cells. So we couldn't go on vacation. This dog has already cost us, I'm guessing, about $4,500, $5,000. And,
yep, that's what medical care for dogs costs you, dogs and cats.
And it's kind of interesting because my wife and I were talking about it, and we talked, you know, we don't want to spend 40 or 50 bucks on ourselves. But when it comes to the dog, who to me is like a child, but when it comes to the dog, and all expenses be spared, and of course what we're doing is we actually give her daily medications, including a daily antibiotic to keep infection away from her because she can't create white cells to fight infections on her own. And we're essentially keeping her happy and comfortable, and she's actually, if you were to look at her, appears to be perfectly normal. And hopefully she lasts a long time, but we're also prepared in the event that if the medication doesn't work anymore, we have to do what, you know, that's also, by the way, one of my pet peeves. We also have to do what to our dog, to the right thing. And you know, I've always said, and I mean this sincerely, and I hope I don't offend too many people with this, but one of the things I'm really glad I never had to decide when I was district attorney is the mercy killing of a parent or a loved one that is irreparably to the point of no chance of living past a few days, in immense pain, completely out of it, has evinced a desire to just let them go. And medical science won't let us do that, and the law won't allow it to occur. And when you think about it, if you overdose somebody purposely on morphine with the intent to cause death of another, you cause that death, that's murder.
Lots of cases, though, the juries won't buy it.
Well, I don't buy it. That's my problem. For animals, we do the right thing. We don't make them suffer. For humans, we make them suffer.
And I have a right to knock myself off when I'm in immense pain and I'm terminal, for Christ's sake. You know, who's the government to tell me I can, and it's a crime?
I don't want a situation where, for example, a husband says, hey, my wife's got a cold, I want you to put her away.
No.
By the same token, if you get a team of doctors all saying the same thing, this is a terminal disease, death is imminent, pain is immense, you can't do anything but to try to make them as comfortable as possible, and they've evinced their own, I don't want to go through this anymore, life isn't worth living like this.
Speaking of dogs, I hear
Linda, one too, yeah.
Linda's dog is trying to get on
Linda,
here.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to...
Good morning, Linda.
Hi, Linda, how are you? It was nice seeing you in Mayville a few weeks back, by the way.
Well, good morning, Jim. Good morning, Reed. How are you?
Oh, doing well, fine. Thanks. I just got back from a 10-day cruise.
Well, we were worried that you might be stranded out there on one of those cabin cruisers.
Yeah, well, those were other ships. You know, they have 1 million ships. The Carnival is 10 times bigger than most outfits, so they're going to have the average run of trouble. But nobody really came to grief this week anyway. You know, they just float around a few minutes, I guess.
Is that what you were on, a carnival?
Oh, yes, and what a trip it was. Fantastic trip.
Well, when I heard, that's what I thought. And when I heard carnival and they were stranded and all those horrific things were happening, I was thinking, I hope Reed doesn't jump overboard.
Not on a bet, Linda. Linda Spalding doing the job. What's new, Linda?
Well, I'm waiting for spring, but it keeps snowing
Yeah.
and I keep shoveling.
The spring just doesn't seem to have sprung, does it?
It does
No.
not. We're on our 95th day of winter, I think, now.
Good Lord help us.
Well, it's great to see you on the show, Jim, and thank you for
Thank you,
giving
Maggie.
us all this information, especially pertinent to seniors.
You're welcome. I'm always pleased to do so. Again, it was a pleasure to see you in Mayville a few weeks back. Might have been longer than that now, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to mention there are services with the Office for the Aging, and we have,
It still exists?
yes, it
They haven't
does.
cut it in the
Always
budget yet?
try.
It hasn't been cut out?
Our seniors won't let it dissipate. We keep after our elected officials in
Good.
Washington.
Good.
So that's what people have to do. I did want to mention that we have free computer training at the Patterson Library, the Dunkirk Free Library, and the Jamestown Office for Aging. It's entry level. We're doing just great with it. It's a perfect place for seniors to get started, to go on for further advancement. I also wanted to mention that there is an opening for a senior aide position in Westfield. We need somebody with some food service and dining site management experience and maybe some ability to do some activity aid work right in Westfield. It would be great if we could get somebody right there in town.
I live right across the street.
Yes.
There you go, Reed.
Well, I need a job. This is
there we
not
go.
a job. Doesn't pay anything.
Yeah, there we go. How many hours a week do you expect Reed to be there now?
Well, it's 20. These positions are 20 hours a week unless there's funding cutbacks. They pay minimum, and there are some eligibility guidelines, like you must be at least 55 and some other things. But people shouldn't be concerned about it. If they're at least 55 and they are not working, they should call, and we will talk to them and do some screening and refer them over. So I look forward to some calls.
Well, there you go. What's the number?
753-4471 is the Office for the Aging.
Okay, and that's for a
In Mayville.
position which is open in Westfield, New York.
Yes.
Beautiful, historic Westfield, New York. You know,
Oh, it is a
It is.
beautiful
the Republican
area.
Party was born in Westfield, New York. Most people don't know that. They had their first meeting. The William Seward was one of the gang who started it. And they had the first meeting, but they had to move to Mayville. They didn't have a big enough hall in Westfield. Westfield was still in the sticks those days. But yeah, it started in Westfield, New York, and the Westfield paper is still the Westfield Republican.
It's true.
People all over the country read it because it was the organ for the Republican Party at the time.
It's a great paper, and there's a lot of history in the older Westfield Republicans. Remember Billy Dibble?
Oh, sure. She's the one who
used
told me I had the oldest house in Westfield, as a matter of fact.
she did a lot of
Yeah.
things concerned with the history of Chautauqua County, and she had a column in the Westfield Republican.
Right, and she was a real crackerjack for history.
Yeah, she was.
She knew everything. It's just
Yeah,
like Devin Taylor here.
How
Yes.
old is your house?
Yeah, Devin Taylor and Chuck Kelsey, they really, well, Devin, he's written quite a few books about the area.
Oh, yeah, and he's a historian par excellence.
Yes. Yeah, well, if I have any questions about the history here, that's who I go to, is Devin.
Okay, there you go. Devin Taylor, a winner,
And
winner. He's part of our team here in,
I have
Channel 5, you know.
Yeah, I have, I think, all of his books, and I've read them, and I give them as gifts at different times of the year.
Uh-huh. Well, there you go, Linda Spalding. How's the dog?
They're
Good,
good.
you got two dogs.
Yes, Toulouse and Dickens.
Luce and Dickens?
Toulouse, like Toulouse-Lautrec.
Toulouse-Lautrec, okay.
Yeah.
And Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
Famous people.
Yeah, Toulouse is very artistic.
Okay. Well, there you go. Can they play the piano yet, though?
No, they can't play the piano. They're not as talented as Squirty.
All right. Squirty was very talented, I remember. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your hard work for the county, and we'll make sure everybody knows about that job. 753-4471 will get you a job, maybe, huh?
That's the Office for the Aging, yes.
Right.
Please call, even if you're slightly interested. We can tell you more about it with your call.
Okay, thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great week.
You too.
Bye, Linda. Nice talking to you.
Linda
Thank you.
Spalding.
Nice talking to you too, Jim.
Actually, sounds like a nice opportunity for someone.
Well,
So how old is your house?
My house was built, and you can do the arithmetic, built in 1808.
Wow.
1808.
205 years old now.
Yeah, and it has certain things that indicate it's old. And a couple of guys came one time and said, "You have an old house here. Can we check your cesspool?" And I said, "What?" they said, I said, "Well, go ahead, be my guest." So they went out back, and they had these probes, and they start pushing. They said, "Aha, here's one." And it turned out they excavated a cesspool that was brick, and it was 8 feet by 8 feet by 10 feet. A huge, it took out half my lily garden.
Wow.
And they pulled out all kinds of stuff, lanterns, baby dolls with porcelain faces. They found zillions of bottles.
No human remains.
Seward, no. Seward, incidentally, was one of the bottles they found. He made an alcoholic beverage. Back in those days, it was a kidney, for the kidneys or for the liver. It was a liniment of some sort. And they kept it in the outhouse. They sneak out and take a swig or two of it. When they were finished, dump it into the hole, you know.
Yeah, why not?
And some of them are quite valuable now, these old glasses and jars and jugs and things they had, and bottles.
Did you get to keep them?
They gave me an assortment of them. I'm sure they kept the best ones. So.
Yeah, ones you never saw.
Which I had no idea, really. I mean, how would I know? But they had a great time, and then I sent them on to the next one I knew of. Pat Nixon had one in a very old house. I figured, well, maybe they'd find an old cesspool there. And I said, "What do you do for a living?" One of them's a doctor, the other's a pharmacist. This is their weekend fun. Jim Subjack, I know he doesn't believe that, but it's true.
I do, actually. I find that stuff fascinating. We'll talk about that sometime, too.
Well, actually, the hole they dug, they filled it in, but it keeps sifting down, and every once in a while I have to go out and throw more dirt on it.
It settles.
Yeah, it settles like crazy.
So did they photograph it?
They took a bunch of photographs, yeah, mostly of the stuff. But I couldn't believe that huge cesspool. Brick!
Yeah.
Brick! All beautiful brick was there in my backyard.
Did they leave it intact?
Yeah, they didn't change a thing. They just filled it back in, and it still sits there quietly now, empty. And the funny thing is, they showed me the seed level. And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, grape seeds float in a cesspool, and they hit a certain area. They're not all the way to the top, but they have a layer that the weight of the seed settles at. And so in all the old cesspools, they have this big layer of grape seeds, because everybody up here was eating grapes, the Concord grapes.
Yeah.
Those who didn't know to spit it back out, which I do, would eat the whole grape, and they would ultimately
yes.
deposit a number of seeds.
I understand that, right.
So I saw the grape layer. All right, Jim
That's
Subjack.
fascinating stuff. It really is.
You learn the darndest things on Senior Report. Okay, last phone call we got coming in. Shall we take one?
Yeah, sure. We got time. If it's
okay, good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question for your guest.
Go ahead.
The last time which was recently, I went to renew my license. They give you a license for 8 years. And I thought to myself at the time, perhaps this might be the last time I get a driver's license, because that's a long way away, but I'm already getting up there. So my question is there a time that sometimes the police might come and take your license away from you because perhaps you've been...
Because you're too old, maybe.
Been seen driving erratically or...
Yeah, well, actually, that happens far more frequently than people understand. In fact, next door a neighbor of mine, this is kind of a cute story, always thought that I had caused her to lose her license because when she checked why she had to take a new driver's test, she was told somebody named Jim, which is obviously my name, complained. It was actually her son, but who was also named Jim. But what had happened was it wasn't that she didn't have her mental faculty, she had all of them, but she was so visually impaired that she could barely see the nose in front of her face, let alone cars 100 yards away. So the way she would handle it is, for example, I live on a real windy little street in Fredonia, And what she would do, I mean, you'd watch her. She'd drive in the middle of it anyway, and then when she'd get to one of the curves, the beginning of the curve, she'd actually stop the car to try to determine which way the curve went, and then she'd turn in that direction. And Central Avenue in Fredonia is a fairly wide road. You'd always know it was her because she'd literally be in the middle of it. Well, fortunately, Central Avenue is big enough that if she's coming at you half in your lane, you can move over, but somebody, in this case her son, turned her in. That happens fairly frequently. If you have an automobile accident, by the way, which is deemed to be your fault, at a certain point what's going to happen is there's going to be a reference made to the Department of Motor Vehicles. They're going to review the automobile accident, and if it happens as a result of icy roads, that's going to happen to you whether you just got your license or you've had it for 60 years. Icy roads are just something, you drive differently, but you still have accidents on them.
Right.
But if it's an accident for no apparent reason, you fall asleep at 3 in the afternoon.
That would not be good.
That would not be good. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a notice that you're going to have to take a road test, just like you did back when you were 16 when you got your license in the first place. Now, when I say road test, they're not going to make you sit down and answer questions like the written part of it. You've already passed that once. But they are going to actually make you demonstrate to them that you are capable of operating your car safely. And if you're deemed not to be safe anymore, they're literally going to pull your license. And then for you to drive thereafter is a criminal offense. So,
do you have any recourse to if they pull your license and you don't?
You always have the right to appeal it, but the burden is going to be significant for you to overcome the determination that you're no longer safe to drive.
And in many states, you're automatically tested after a certain age.
You are.
Well, now you answered my question excellently. Thank you. Hopefully, when the time comes, I'll be wise enough to know you probably shouldn't be driving anymore.
Or your kids. That's what happens. In many cases, the kids just hide your key and disable your car.
I'd take my mother's keys away from her and never let her drive again either. I gave the car to I didn't, but we gave the car to my brother. But what had happened was she was in an accident in Dunkirk where she was suffering or the early stages of Alzheimer's at the time. She ran a red light, hit a car. Nobody was hurt. I mean, nobody was going very fast. She got out like she was supposed to. She went to see if everyone was okay, which she was supposed to. Everyone was okay. She got back in her car and left. And of course, they got the license plate and called it, and the Dunkirk police called me and said, Jim, your mom was in an accident, you need to do something. So I went there the next day and said, Mom, you know, you can't drive anymore. And the difficult part about that is one of the last things of independence that you have.
Absolutely, and many people, that's one of the reasons I was asking.
Yeah.
I know of many older people that still have their licenses, and they maybe drive to the grocery store once a week or something like that. But it's just
Thank you, caller. We're out of time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
I just got this 30 seconds to close up, and then we're out of here.
You never give me enough time. Well, Reed, I first of all want to thank you for being on here. It's always a pleasure to be here. You know, there's always a million topics that we can cover. Viewers may not know this, but when Reed and I get together, we never have an agenda planned. It's just it just happens. And whatever we talk about, and we never have trouble filling the show. But we're always happy to hear your questions. We try to give as much information as we can. We hope you enjoy the show. And again, I've always found this to be a pleasure, and I look forward to my next time on.
And thanks for showing,
Thank you.
Thanks for being part of it. Never got to gun control, but we'll get
next
there
time.
next
Well,
time.
next time we will.
Jim Subjack, attorney in Fredonia. If they want to get in touch, give them a number.
672-2800.
There you go, guys. I want to thank the special people that really make sure, thank the last caller who didn't get on, by the way. But,
sorry about that.
Chuck Kelsey, Devin Taylor, who's been mentioned before, Chris Burt, who's been mentioned before, Randy Bird. Happy birthday, Chris. Chris Ramaker, Jeff Zook, Don Zenz, John Hamels, and everybody else out there who's done the job. Thank you for joining us. May all that is proud and true and noble abide with you. I'm Reed Powers.